Watching TVC Breakfast, it's time now to take a look at stories making headlines on Nigerian newspapers, and I have joining me here in the studio Public Affairs Analyst Oladeinde Ariyo. Thank you so much for joining us.
Good morning.
All right,
it's a rainy day.
Raining day, yeah, really.
I because roll right in, otherwise I would have been soaked.
other states too, Osun and some other states, they've actually seen the rain, and now we are already getting our own rains in Lagos. Okay, so we also have from Enugu, PR consultant, public affairs analyst Ambrose Igboke. Thank you so much for being here this morning.
Good morning, Mike. Good morning, Ariyo.
I'm not sure whether the weather is also very cold there. Maybe rain there. Did it?
Yeah, it rained in Enugu as well, and we are enjoying the cold weather after the escalating heat that nearly finished us very much.
All right, makes sense. Let's quickly look at the newspaper. You might want to also refer me again. I'm Ibrahim, not Mike this time round. All right, let's see what Blueprint is saying this morning. Amid renewed Imo sit-at-home order, Buhari says it's time to review security situation in the Southeast. Our Daily Independent is next. Rising insecurity, that's a key care, and the headline reads, President Buhari deploys more police, DSS, NSCDC operatives to Imo. We're reaching out to aggrieved politicians. That's Governor Uzodinma. First News is next. Alleged 42 billion naira fraud. EFCC releases former Governor Obiano on bail. And Nigerian News Direct. Party defection, INEC in dilemma as court affirms Umahi's sack. The writer read, additional 20 assembly members removed in Cross River, and will enforce High Court judgment. That's according to the PDP. Vanguard newspaper is next. The screaming headline here, presidency ruckus in the APC over zoning to Southwest. Southeast South groups fault ceding of presidency to Southwest. Leaders in power sharing arrangement as governors bury the hatchet. Right, this Nigeria is next. National chairmanship position, APC senators divided over 3 colleagues. And the writers read, nothing will stop convention from holding. That's according to Governor Uzodinma, and screening of aspirants commence 4 days to exercise. Well, that's too close to call, I would say. The Punch newspaper has this headline, APC chairmanship, Almakura, Adamu, Yari, others learn fate as aspirants screening holds today. And governors initiate last-minute move for consensus candidate. APC caucus hasn't endorsed any chairmanship aspirant. That's according to the Senate. National Convention, Sun Daily is next. National Convention, APC governors mend fences. Nasarawa governor says party leaders working together, and party sets stringent conditions for aspirants. We'll look at that in the course of this conversation. And the Nation newspaper reads, Southsouth PDP governors demand presidential tickets. Obaseki absent at meeting. We can't stop Atiku, Saraki, others, says PDP. Nigerian Tribune, defection. Court sags 20 Cross River lawmakers. We're not aware of judgment sacking us. Now, the speaker, and court strikes out Mahi's motion to stop execution of judgment and issues certificate of return to Igariwe, Odogu. Now, PDP tells INEC. Right, that's another one there, according to the Nigerian newspaper. The Guardian newspaper is next. Defection, judiciary again axes 20 Cross River lawmakers. And the writers read, battle shift to appeal court, the appellate court, as Umahi withdraws stay of execution application. Lawmakers removal in line with spirit of law. That's according to Senator Igboke, and withdrawal complicates Umahi's matter, says Oyebode. That's that for the Guardian newspaper. The Daily Trust is next. Why fuel scarcity persists in Abuja, northern states. We're still on this matter. Vehicle owners sleep at filling stations. Russia-Ukraine war slows product importation. That's according to official giving us that information there. Leadership newspaper is next. After 2 months of scarcity, CBN wades into fuel crisis. That's another one there. National economy, banks cut operating hours on rising diesel cost. Banks cut operating hours on rising diesel cost. That's according to the national economy. And the last but not the least, Business Day. Dangote fertilizer plant seen boosting food security. Dangote fertilizer plant seen boosting food security. Well, that's it. So let's the national economy, right? Banks cut operating hours on rising diesel cost. That's national economy. Let's begin with the national economy. Let's talk about what it's actually biting Nigerians. Let me start with you, Ariyo. National economy says banks cut operating hours on rising diesel cost. What do you make of that?
It's not only banks. I can tell you that television stations, radio stations, they've also embarked on that. My office yesterday, we had to close at 4 o'clock. Why? It was costing us, more to keep the office powered. And when you look at all of this at the individual or corporate level, you are seeing a situation whereby unbudgeted costs are now filtering into your cost picture, which at the end of the day, if care is not taken, the bottom line will not look good. And I'm worried that it's taking us this long. Perhaps if we had known, we would have been going for gas-powered generators, because gas has not increased since after the last increment. But at the end of the day, what do you see? An improperly managed and mismatched economic policies. Of course, that's where we are now. And for me, I expected quick action that will bring this thing to a close and ameliorate the situation.
Right.
But like nobody is doing anything about it. We're not getting what we should get, information to, okay, this is what we're doing, please hang in there, hold on. Give us, maybe you say a day, 2 days or 1 week or whatever, then we plan ourselves, we know what to do. I mean, it's so painful. One of my radio stations that I regularly listen to, they were off air. And I had to call the GM. He said the generator had an issue, this one packed up, then this one, all of that. If that continues for too long, they will be forced to downsize. And that will worsen our unemployment situation. So how are we growing our economy? GDP and all of that. It's very negative.
Right. Let's go to Enugu, where Ambrose Igboke is standing by. Ambrose, well, after 2 months of scarcity, CBN wades into fuel crisis. Is that a silver lining?
Well, there's no silver lining anywhere. We are going to continue to suffer this state until we get things right. And what do I mean to get things right? We must be able to have local refining capacity. It is an absurdity. It is an anathema. In fact, this is the paradox of logic, that a country that produces crude oil imports refined products. I mean, until we are able to see that as the eighth wonder of the world, then perhaps we can begin to know that there is no intervention whatsoever. This dark of jackboot approach, this knee-jerk approach that the CBN is bringing, we all do things as if we are not prepared. We behave as if we don't plan. There's nothing on ground. We just intervene in a staccato manner. So it makes it look as if we are not a serious nation. Why should a nation be producing crude oil, exporting crude oil, and cannot refine it? A country that was doing the same thing, that had that same capacity 50 years ago, 40 years ago, 30-something years ago, all of a sudden, instead of progressing, we are regressing. Then we cannot produce this, we cannot even refine our own fuel. So when there's a volatility in the international market, and just caused by the Russian-Ukraine crisis, then we begin to suffer the fate instead of us smiling to the bank. Because when there is crisis like that, what happens is the international price for both crude and refined product go up. And then if you are a serious country that is into that market, you start smiling to the bank because the price of your product will increase. But always, we are supposed, before now, we used to celebrate when the price of crude oil goes up in international markets, when OPEC gains, because I'm a member of OPEC, we become happy. But in the last increment, Nigerians were not happy because instead of transforming to gain for us, we keep suffering it because they will start telling you that the international price for refined products has increased, therefore we have to pay more. So until we are able to, correct the root cause of what is making us suffer, then there's no silver lining anywhere. CBN is just doing the abracadabra used to do. CBN should, where is the policy that the CBN has provided for us to ensure that we have local refining capacity?
Yeah.
But so all these things playing to the gallery. It doesn't solve any problem.
Right, let me bring you back to the studio, Oladeinde Ariyo. Well, vehicle owners sleep at filling stations, and he also alluded to the Russian-Ukraine war, which is slowing down product importation. That's according to the officials. We are supposed to bank on the fact that there is a war there, and we are not refining in the country.
You see, it pains when I remember the promise by Mr. President shortly before the election that he said every year he will build a refinery each. So I had thought that by now, even at regional level, that we will have perhaps modular refineries, so that if they have issues elsewhere, the local area there will be serviced. But it's not so, and it's looking increasingly hopeless. The only hope we have now is on Dangote refinery.
I was going to say that when you said it's looking hopeless, but then it's a silver lining.
Yeah, but then how do you hang 200 million people on 1 month's production efforts? Then when you look at Dangote as an investor, you wonder why Nigeria as a government cannot bankroll a refinery. Instead, we've been spending money, borrowing money, and spending them on things that will not increase revenue. Okay? I didn't mean we were investing on things that generate revenue. But of course, employment will be generated. For instance, if we had built a refinery in the last 7 years, we would have even stopped exporting crude oil. That's why I said we shouldn't be in OPEC. Seriously. Because we should be by now exporting kerosene, jet fuel, diesel, and whatever other component can be derived from the petrochemical industry. But what do? We simply, it's annoying. And you keep asking yourself, it's been a progressive regression over the years. So I'm not stopping the blame at the door of this government. But it's been like that since Oladeinde, and we've squandered more money on TAM, that's all around maintenance, that would have built us new refineries. I don't know why people who are managing our economy and resources, I don't see things the way we are seeing. Perhaps because we're not in government, right? Perhaps they know more than we do. If they know more than we do, it should be to better our lot, not to worsen our situation. Right. Things are really tough out there now.
Let's turn our attention to the Southeast crisis. Ambrose, Igboke, you're in the Southeast, Enugu for that matter. Rising insecurity, that's according to Daily Independent, says rising insecurity, President Buhari deploys more police, DSS, NSCDC operatives to Imo, and then we know that the Imo State governor was with the president yesterday to brief him on the crisis in Imo State. So what's your reading of some blood-chilling incidences in the Southeast zone where you are?
Southeast is also suffering its own portion of insecurity. What I have to say about this is that I think this issue of having more boots on ground, jack boots on ground, has it been able to solve any problem in the last 2 years that we have been suffering this? I think it is time for the military authority, led by our commander-in-chief, to start looking at a multifaceted approach to the insecurity in the Southeast. There's also the issue of soft power. There's the issue of also trying to try mediation. When you talk of peace and conflict resolution, when you go to some of the root causes, you find out that it is an issue of dispute that has escalated into conflict. Now we have to now start treating the root causes. What are the root causes of these rebellion? What are the root causes of this crisis? And then we can now start nipping them in the bud, try tackling them from the roots, so that we can have a very clear root cause analysis of what is causing the conflict. And then we can now know how to intervene from a multi-pronged approach. Because only one approach, which is jackpot on ground, linear warfare, and the rest, may not be able to solve the problem. It may be able to give temporary relief, but it may not be able to solve the problem.
Let me help you a bit. Let's see whether we can break it down. Is it a matter of cultism, or is it the separatists, championed by the IPOB, or is it just sheer criminality that's, it's birthing all of these crises in the Southeast?
Of all you have mentioned, first of all, it's also a social crisis in the form that a youth who is gainfully employed and earning salary or have a means of livelihood will not go and engage in some activities that he knows that will endanger his own life. So it is a factor that is escalating in the whole country. I look at the issue of this ritual killing, the Yahoo Plus, and all those kind of things that is already prevalent in our society today. Wealth by all means and the rest. So it's a systematic decay that is growing into a monster. And the way some of them, the way they ventilate this thing is by going into armed struggle. It is all over the country. From the east to the north, to the south-south, to the southwest, it's everywhere. So it is becoming a time bomb all over the country. Therefore, the Igbo cultural group, the Oladeinde, have been trying in the past to see how they can mediate. The southeastern governors should also wrap up their efforts. And then there should be a panel, a kind of investigative panel to find out what are the root cause analysis. There should also be a mediation panel to see where we can come to. Because every war, every conflict, every expedition, military expedition, every war comes back to a round table to end the war. And that is always that we always say, how can't we advocate that method before even having more boots on ground? In that way, we cannot see how we can promote peace and then dissuade more of warfare, and then see how, because whether you like it or not, these people are the citizens of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. These people are members of the society. They are not aliens. Therefore, I think the federal government also, in trying to also do the temporary measures of putting boots on ground in terms of stemming the tide, should start thinking of, in the next 2, 3, 5 months, how do we de-escalate the situation by having a multi-pronged approach, especially mediation in the crisis.
Well, it looks like the president is kind of talking tough, according to what Blueprints reported. He said, amid renewed Imo seat at home order, President Buhari says it's time to review security situation in the Southeast. It's time, isn't it?
Were you hearing that for the first time?
But it's time, according to the president.
My challenge is this. Over the years, we have analyzed the situations. Number one, intelligence gathering has failed. Because were it to have worked, they would have been able to preempt attacks, okay? And of course, apprehend the attackers. But that we still hear gunmen or unknown gunmen. Leaves a lot, that's undesirable. Now, the question you want to ask yourself is, retired General Danjuma said there's a plan for ethnic cleansing. Okay, at his level, you wouldn't say it's frivolous or flippant. He must have information. Perhaps we have to establish who are the people killing people in the Southeast. Okay, is it part of the ethnic cleansing? And if it is not so, I had said they should call IPOB to the table. What do you guys want? Okay, perhaps they may not have hands in what is going on, or if they have, or they know people, then they involve every interest. It's about us. Nobody is more Nigerian than the other person. It's all collective interest, right? And so if they had done that, I'm sure we will not be where we are today. And it's still not too late. You can deploy many more policemen, many more DSS, and many more soldiers. The question is, we've had similar cases in the Northeast. How successful have the operations been? Why don't we try a conversation, discussion and let's see if it will work. Otherwise,
what is this conversation going to be?
Because the question is,
a lot of people.
Who are the people protesting? It, for me, is an indication of protest.
Protest against what, or protest for
Don't
what?
deny the fact that the average Southeasterner still sees himself as heavily and badly marginalized. Okay? Every part of Nigeria.
And should that conversation be on the separatist agenda that, okay, you people will be allowed to go, your own way?
You and I can't
that's
determine
the
that.
bottom line of the agitation.
There are globally acknowledged and acceptable ways to determine that. We don't want to have memorandum of plebiscite or whatever.
Okay.
That's not for us to decide. But it is not impossible to say, okay, what do you guys want? And then you hold a plebiscite, let people vote.
Okay.
You may think you are a leader, but when people say what you are offering, they don't want it, then you know you have lost out. Because the economy of Southeast is being crippled, and terribly too. My friend was home for Christmas. By the time he came back to Lagos, he was almost begging. And terribly that his vehicle had the problem. They couldn't touch all the Mondays, in the weeks, they couldn't do anything to the vehicle. He had to overstay. I mean, so everybody is affected very negatively. So the earlier it's not always about guns, police, and all that. Talk to people, have a conversation, know what is happening. You and I may not know. Through that, they may be able to pinpoint or separate the specifics and tackle them, and then bring peace to the Southeast. Going home now is, it's very tough for some people.
Right.
They're not sure they are safe. Thank God the bill also survived. Okay, it could have been cut down, and then where do we go from there?
Absolutely. Well, let me take it back to Enugu, where this issue is also affecting them. Professor Charles Soludo was inaugurated just a few days back, and he promised that he's going to look into the security situation in Anambra State. And then a message came from IPOB telling him that he should be very careful and not listen to those who are, trying to maybe misguide him or so. And if he does that, that could be the beginning of the failure of his governance. So, what would you say to this?
First of all, as I mentioned earlier, if you don't consider peace as a foremost option, if you don't Georgia, then you will want war. And even after the war, you still come back to Georgia. So why not, experiment the Georgia discussion, conversation, roundtable? And I think that is what Soludo is trying to do now. His Excellency, I think I have to start learning how to add His Excellency. He's trying to do now, because he didn't talk tough. There's what we call the soft power, as I said. He's using the soft power. That is power of appeal, power of persuasion, power of negotiation, ultimately power of mediation. And then when you achieve these things in a positive perspective, you start having peace. And then you start having de-escalation of already existing volatile situation. But if you keep talking war, remember that some people profit when a society is disorganized. And it is those profiteers of conflict. I think that is what IPOB is referring to. That in every side, both from the side of the government and from the other side, there are people whose veins are, their profiteering is from conflict. Therefore, the governor should also, that is, I think, what is being advised, that he should not listen to such innuendos and say, oh, deal with them, tough them, you are the governor.
Right. I think you made a valid.
No, you have.
We lost you momentarily. Could you quickly wrap up your thoughts so that we can bring it back to take it home at the end of the day?
Stop from up, back up from Abuja, come from up police, this like what is happening in most states. He uses negotiation and mediation, and I think it will de-escalate the matter. And then from there, you can use soft power, use the traditional rulers, use the people, and then be able to source for peace.
All right.
In Ebola.
All right, so finally, let's have your thoughts on the fact that you also advocated dialogue. Let's come to the round table and have this conversation. The dialogue, does it include, withdrawing the case against Nnamdi Kanu in the court of law?
Well,
because this is part of the reasons why they are also
that may not be the starting point. But nothing stops the government in being magnanimous now, in handling this case. All the charges brought against him are being ably defended by his lawyers. So for us to fast track the end of the insecurity, because how many Chikeakunyilis do we want to kill before peace comes to the southeast? So whatever needs to be done, which if it includes giving him a pardon, please, let's have peace in the southeast. That is my focus.
Well, that is the bottom line.
Like I remember, like I always say, we are joint and equal stakeholders. So nobody should think he has a leverage over others. It's the same interest we all have. It's our project. So we must make it work without making anybody feel it's a lesser mortal or that you are more superior. No, let's level the table. Let's all sit down and talk as brothers.
One undivided hold. United we stand, they say.
Divided before.
Divided before. Well, that's all we have for you on the newspaper headlines. You can also, definitely do more of reading in all of these. We'll say thank you so much to our studio guest, Public Affairs Analyst, Oladeinde Ariyo. Thank you so much for your time. And also from Enugu, PR Consultant and Public Affairs Analyst, Ambrose Igboke. Thank you so much for your insights there.
Thank you for having me.